Perfect. Well, thank you. And a very, very warm welcome to our second online lecture for your introduction to marketing. I hope that the past 2 weeks have been good to you guys. It's always difficult in the beginning, I know, to set up and sort out and get acquainted with this type of learning if this is your first semester in online learning. So well done for being here and getting sorted. What I want to do this evening, as per our discussions last time, so 2 weeks ago, and our communication in between, is I first want to briefly chat about the video that you guys have done for your Ask Task 1, and then to go into our chapters 1 and 2 very briefly, because they set the scene for our module. And I hope that you guys have had some time to look at the videos that I've sent you. And it's nice, very introductory 2 chapters, but also important to set the scene for your portfolio of evidence. So, as I said, a very well done to you guys who have done and created your videos. I'm just trying to see who is online. And your task was to create a video advert on one of the following bike products. And the whole reasoning behind that was to get you guys thinking about our case study that we are tackling throughout the course of the semester, as well as getting you acquainted with creating adverts. So I'm just looking at Connor and Kalisha and Jamie. I'm just thinking who else. I'm just looking online. Yes, I was so incredibly impressed with your adverts. All of you online who have submitted, and I thought that your visuals were good, your music was fantastic. There was some really, really good imagery. And Connor, in your case, I was very happy to hear that you actually got to test drive one, which is amazing. So the whole exercise for you guys was to get you used to creating adverts, because that's something that you have to do in your portfolio of evidence, and then to start thinking about the company. So I want to put a question to you guys. How do you feel about the company? I think it was you, Connor, last time. You were saying that you were thinking that they were dead and buried in South Africa, a nice Chinese car manufacturer coming in to a very, very competitive South African market. But any comments or queries about the company at hand? Jamie, in the first session that we had, Canva was just a suggestion. You don't have to use Canva. Quite a couple of people didn't actually use it, and you could have just used the very basic one. So no, you don't have to use Canva. You can use pretty much any format to create a video. It was just a suggestion. Any other comments? Okay, well, hopefully you guys have learned something about our company that we are going to look at in a lot of detail. Connor, you said you got good insight. That's excellent. I'm very happy to hear that. So thank goodness our reasoning behind the task was good, that you actually are getting to grips with the company. And yes, we're going to learn so much about this company and be able to apply it in a marketing context. So that's excellent. Okay, well, let's go to the task at hand tonight. What I want to do is to briefly go through Learning Unit 1, because as I say, it's setting the scene for you guys in your portfolio of evidence. And then I want to very briefly as well just go over a little bit of your task one of your portfolio of evidence. And tonight we won't actually be covering key content on it, but it's good to have a look and get a feel of it and kind of to see what's coming. So I'm hoping you guys have had time to go through that document. I did put it on Learn under more resources for you guys. So we just going to look very, very briefly at chapter 1, and remember from last time, this slide that I showed you last time is very much your entire module on a slide. Can you believe it? And what we really need to understand, and I'm hoping you guys did by the videos that I sent you, was really to understand what the marketing function is and how it fits into the business world. Does marketing create financial structures? No, it doesn't. Does it hire people? No, it doesn't. Does it take products from A to B? No, it doesn't. It is really about identifying customers, understanding what customers want, and designing strategies to meet customer needs better than competitors. Simple, simple as that. And in fact, I just want to get my little hand ready there. These two parts are what we're going to have a look at tonight. So we're going to understand the concept of marketing, and then to talk briefly about the environments in which companies operate. And please, if you need to ask me anything or any clarity or any points, please stop me. So if we have to academically talk about marketing, it is the process of designing strategies to meet the needs of people. And in our introductory session 2 weeks ago, we talked about the 4 P's of marketing. And that's the essence of our course, is to put together product strategies, pricing strategies, promotional strategies, and distribution strategies. The P actually means place. And to really, once we have identified the target markets for the groups. Okay, no problem, Connor. Don't really need to follow in the textbook either. Textbook is for your self-directed learning. My slides are really designed to highlight understanding and identify key points for you. So don't worry about following in the text. With something to, with I suppose, a marketing element. So let's take one of our cars. Let's take, for those of you who have done some research, we know some of the cars that our BEC are developing and designing and selling in South Africa. So if we take a B40 Plus, an SUV, little Chinese car, in order for marketing to happen, there has to be a buyer and a seller. So I want to buy an SUV, and BEC want to sell me a B40 Plus. The other element of the concept of exchange is that there must be something that each party values. As the customer, I want to purchase the product. That's what I want to purchase. And from the company side, they want to be paid. So there has to be something of value. The exchange process also identifies a communication framework. We must be able to communicate with each other and to be able to accept or reject the offer. So I go into a dealership and I'm offered a B40 Plus for 390,000 Rand. I think, gosh, that's a bit expensive. I think I might go and have a look at Suzuki and walk away. Alternatively, I can say, yes, please, I would like to purchase the product. And the final part of the exchange concept is that each party, i.e. buyer or seller, must want to deal with the other. I want to purchase this car, and the salesperson wants to sell it to me. So in order for marketing to happen, to meet the needs of people, there has to be an exchange. And it's a very, very basic concept, but it's quite important to understand. In your textbooks, you would also see how marketing has evolved over time. And I've sent you a wonderful video on this, how marketing moved from companies that said, you will buy this product, you've only got one color and one type, and I'm talking about the Model T car in America, and that's the price. To where we are now, the marketing concept and the societal marketing concept, where not only do we meet customer needs, we customize products to meet people's needs, but we're also trying to meet other needs involved in the exchange. And this could be environmental needs, it could be social needs, it could be social upliftment and development needs. So we look a little bit wider than the company and the customer now. We actually don't want to hurt the planet. And Connor, I was very happy to see that they are an environmentally friendly company. And that's quite important, looking at what we call the societal marketing concept. But marketing has evolved quite significantly over time. Also in your textbook, we're not going to have a look too much at it now, but how there are different types of marketing orientations. And as I say, probably the most developed form of marketing is what we call societal marketing now. So it's not just looking at the 4 Ps, it's looking at planet as well. So what we call the triple bottom line approach. I don't know if you guys have ever heard that, but how companies not only look at their people, they look at their profit and their planet as well. It's called the triple bottom line. You might actually learn about it in business management. So the whole marketing process, we know what marketing is, but this is probably the best summary I could give you. And the marketing is all about analyzing opportunities. Did Bike see an opportunity in the South African market? Yes, they did, because they saw that the South African market for reasonably priced sedans and SUVs was growing. The market in China was quite saturated. Bike is the 6th biggest car manufacturer in China. So it's not one of the really big ones. So analyzing market opportunities is very, very important. Selecting the appropriate target markets, i.e., who are the people whose needs you are going to meet. So that's what happens next. And then once you understand who those people are, developing the most suitable marketing mix for these segments and managing the marketing effort through making sure everything happens. So the marketing mix or the marketing strategy is about developing product strategies, i.e., what type of product, how does it look, what needs does it meet? Pricing strategies, what is the right price level for the target market that has been chosen? Place, how is this product going to be distributed to the target market? Is it going to be all over the country? Is it going to be select? Is it only going to be in certain car dealers? Is it only going to be in our car dealers? And then how are we going to tell our target market about it? How are we going to promote the B40 Plus SUV in South Africa? How are we going to make sure that we can inform people, we can remind them that we're here, and we can persuade them to buy? So the marketing process is essentially the slide that you guys have in front of you. Are there any questions on that? Okay, perfect. Thank you. So let's just talk a little bit about our company and our whole scenario. So our whole portfolio of evidence is about this company entering the South African market with a range of vehicles, not too many, and they saw a gap in the market, they saw an opportunity, and they have to compete against some very, very established brands in the South African market. Renault, Nissan, Hyundai, Ford, Jeep, Land Rover. So it's quite a tough one. And your jobs over the course of the semester is to come up with a marketing strategy that will assist this company. So one of the problems that we have in South Africa is the establishment of the already entrenched brands that we all know and we all love. And the other is to make people aware. Now, I have to be very, very honest with you. Up until this portfolio of evidence that we've been given, I was not au fait with this particular company or their products. So that's telling us something that we need to do a little bit of market research to find out how much people really know about this company. Who had never heard of this company before? There's just a little bit of its background. Okay, thank you, Kalisha. Yes, yeah, something we're gonna learn a lot about this company, but a little bit of its foundation. It's been around a long time. It's came into the South African market recently, business terms in the last kind of 3 to 5 years, and we need to get to grips with it. Now you can see that logo on the screen at the moment, and we know what that is. That's Mr. Price. And I've always used Mr. Price as an example when we are looking at our theory, but we're kind of going to interplay tonight Mr. Price and bike, because obviously bike is our focus. But in order to look now at the environment in which companies operate, we need to take something and apply it. So companies do not operate in a vacuum, as you know. Companies operate in what we call the marketing environment, and that constitutes 3 separate environments that we need to briefly have a look at. So going back to our slide, remember this is our course on the slide. This is what we're going to look at now. We're going to look at the environment in which BAC operates, the environment which Mr. Price operates. So we look at 3 different environments. You can read that in your own time. I just want to get to a visual. Here it is. This is a better visual. And what I'm going to do is just briefly go through these 3 different types of environments with you guys. I have sent you some wonderful videos on them, as I said, and they're very, very, very easy to understand. So if we look at the microenvironment of a business, we are looking at the environment within the company itself, how the company operates, the people that it employs, the strategies that they develop, the vision and the missions that companies put forward. And this is just an example of Mr. Price in terms of their vision and their purpose, and to really understand the elements within a company. Part of this internal environment is what the objectives of the company are, who are the target market or markets for this company, what resources and skills and facilities this company has. And essentially a company such as Mr. Price and Bike have complete control over their microenvironment. Everything that's happening within the company, they are able to change, manipulate, and reconstruct. And part of understanding this microenvironment for marketers is to determine what you're good at and what you're not good at. And if we have a look at bike in South Africa at the moment, I would say that one of the things that the company needs to work on is its information on its customers. If the sales and the brand awareness of the product is not good, what do they need to do? They need to decide, let's take some money and let's find out what's happening in the market. So the microenvironment is very, very much in the control of a company. This is just giving you a little bit more information on Mr. Price, product offerings and customer positioning, what the kind of target market for Mr. Price apparel is. Yeah, it's a very well-known brand in the South African market. I'm not going to go through that now. The second type of environment that a company or any company needs to look at is what we call the market environment. All the elements that affect the company specifically. So it is about looking at consumers. Who are your customers? It is about understanding your suppliers. Where do you receive your parts, your car parts from, your production, your distribution facilities, etc. It is intermediaries. Those are the businesses that are part of your business and help facilitate the production and the supply of the final product. And it is also about your competitors. So these three elements, consumers, suppliers, intermediaries, and competitors, are critical to a company understanding what they do, how they perform. If a competitor changes its pricing, a company might need to change its pricing. Marketers and companies have no control over this environment. So Bike does not have any control over what its competitors do. It also has no control over intermediaries, i.e., I'm thinking of the big one that none of us have any control over at the moment, but that would be Eskom. Suppliers, also an example we could use of Eskom, and the consumer, the customer. So, but whilst companies have absolutely no control over this, what these elements do significantly affects business. So one of the things that I wanted you to start thinking about is that who are Bike's competitors? If you had to write a list of them and to try and understand them, who exactly are they competing with? So you need to start thinking about that, because that determines your strategies that you put forward. This was just an example of Mr. Price in terms of their competition. So the element here to understand is that if Zara does something very different, it might affect Mr. Price. And even when they are not so close in terms of competition, what they do, their products, their strategies, their vision and mission will affect you as a particular company. Now, what we need to start doing, and you guys need to do it because this is kind of the work that you get marked on, and I can't do it for you, is who are the direct competitors of Bike in South Africa. Any questions or comments before we carry on? Yes, definitely. Definitely. So you've identified some really good, I would say, value competitors in the market. Chery, Suzuki, Great Wall Motors, that's another Chinese company, Haval. Yes. Yes. Also, Beijing is a new one. So good. You've already got a good understanding of the competition. And as we've already, and we know, my goodness, the South African market is highly, highly competitive. Another interesting element about Bike is that they have developed operations in PE. When you do your research and look at all the company information, you'll see they have a big factory down there, which is very interesting. So they've invested a lot of money in South Africa already with a view to making some money. The last environment that we need to understand in a marketing sense is what we call the macro environment. And these are all the elements outside the company that they have absolutely no control over, that affect the competitiveness, the workings, the profitability, etc. of a company. And as you can see, I have done Mr. Price, but let's go and look at these various factors and think about bike at the same time. And as I say, because I can't really do your work for you, but this gives you a really good understanding of some of the elements. So let's first look at Mr. Price in South Africa, bike in South Africa, and look at what we call the political legal environment. So these are all the factors that would impact those companies that the government does. So this could be down to corruption and instability. It could be certain types of legislative reforms. It could be things like changes in acts, carbon emission acts, that would affect a car manufacturer. Any type of political or legislative change, political instability, would not only affect Mr. Price, but it would certainly affect a Chinese car manufacturer in South Africa, as would what we call the international environment. And here we're seeing it playing out in South Africa as more and more international competitors come into our country. We saw with Mr. Price, we keep getting lots of new retailers. It's the same as happening in the car industry, bike being one of them, but there is just increased competition globally. Part of international problems as well. We have wars. These are affecting supply chains nationally and internationally. We also have energy crises, not just in South Africa, can you believe it, but particularly in South Africa. And that would greatly affect companies coming into this country and operating in this country, and also globally. So what's happening internationally affects companies happening and competing in South Africa. We also need to understand the technical changes and trends. So one of the elements that doesn't apply to our case study, but does to Mr. Price, is the global online market. In terms of how there's just been a proliferation, especially since COVID, of online shopping. In fact, so it is not, it does actually apply to the car industry, but not as much. But any type of technical changes and developments, e-commerce, security changes, will impact not only Mr. Price, but also bike in South Africa. We also need to look at the economic element. Oh my goodness, we could go on and on about economics in South Africa, but here we are looking at things that affect these businesses, like the weakening of the rand and inflation and unemployment increases. Because as unemployment increases, so does market start shrinking. Weak foreign direct investment, disposable income changes, tax changes. All of these affect our purchasing power as customers. So as elements change and develop and trends appear in the economic environment, so does it impact bike as a car manufacturer, Mr. Price as an apparel manufacturer in the country. Yes, I would agree. The interest rate is such a biggie. And not only ourselves being with high interest rates, but even the countries around the world that have had historically very low interest rates are starting to feel huge pressure for increase in interest rates. In fact, every time the US Treasury changes an interest rate, it affects us. So there's the international environment up there affecting what's happening in South Africa. The social environment also impacts. So what the trends and behaviors of consumers, you and I, how we change our behavior, how in 2 years ago we would have purchased a car that wasn't planet friendly, but now we are more informed, we're becoming more conscious of global warming, etc. I kind of feel if anybody's from Durban, it's what we're suffering with today, my goodness. But it's about understanding how people's behaviors are changing based on their views. And in Mr. Price's case, there's a very strong trend now towards proudly South African clothing. We would need to really understand if we feel that about cars. Not that we have a South African brand of car, but bike is a foreign car. We don't know that car. How do we feel about that car? Will it fit into our lifestyle? Those different models that it has. And then the final component that we need to look at there is what we call the physical environment. Actually, what's physically happening in the country at the moment. So, to give you an example, something like a water issue. As I say, I don't know where you guys are in South Africa, but my goodness, have we got some water issues where I am. And that affects business. It affects apparel. It affects cars. It affects food. It is a huge problem. And not only water, but drought will then affect the product ranges in food. Energy crisis as well, weather changes, physically what is happening, storms, even going down to in South Africa as well, we've got a transport problem. Our physical transport systems are very, very poor. So the macro environment influences businesses in an enormous way. And marketers need to understand what is happening, to identify trends, to then say, how can we minimize a threat? And how can we maximize an opportunity that we've seen in our macro environment? Does that make sense to you guys? Okay, thank you, Nia. We're all good. So these slides that are just give you a little bit more detail on what those environments are. We've already had a look at them. Just giving you some definitions. They're nice in your textbook as well. Textbook is very, very easy. And as I said, the purpose of understanding these trends and is to really identify, well, what can the company do to minimize threat and maximize opportunities? And you guys all know what a SWOT analysis is. You would have done it, I think, even at school. But this is an example of a Mr. Price SWOT analysis, looking at the market, looking at the macro environment, looking at the micro environment. They would come up and say, well, we've got a really strong brand. We've got good distribution. We've got a very lean structure. And we can see that in the Mr. Price stores, my goodness. And they're a very financially stable company. But actually, our products are generally poor quality, and sometimes our customer service isn't great either. So those are what we call internal factors that Mr. Price would be aware of. Opportunities, which are to the market. Mr. Price could have identified that customers are becoming more technologically enabled. We can sell online more. They might have identified that loyalty programs work very, very well in the South African market, and that the market is growing for Mr. Price apparel. They would also have identified that there's more competition coming in. There is incredible amounts of international competition coming in. Customers are being squeezed economically by every means possible. We all know that. And we are changing as people. Our needs are changing. Our wants are changing. Our thoughts about companies and products and how they deliver their products and services are changing. So understanding your environment gives you an understanding of what you're good at, what you need to work on, and what opportunities and threats are out there in the market for you. So what we need to understand when we start building up a profile of bike is to understand what they'll be good at. And what we already know without actually knowing very little about them is that they do not have a strong brand presence in the South African market. They really don't. Most of us had never heard of them. Why? Because they knew, probably because they haven't done much marketing, and we can help them with that. That's for sure. Are there any questions or comments on that theory? As I say, it sets the tone, it sets the background to your portfolio of evidence. Okay, so I just want to spend a couple of minutes on it now then. Has anybody not had a look at the portfolio of evidence that I put on Learn? Okay, well, that's perfect. That you don't need to have it in depth. This is really just to start you looking and understanding what you need to do. So in our introductory session a couple of weeks ago, we talked about how you are assessed for this module, and it is through a portfolio of evidence. A part one, a part two, and then the final part. And really, I'm not going to go through this. What I wanted to really point out to you tonight is kind of its structure. We're not going to go into declarations and blah, 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 blah. And it's very similar to all your other your modules. But I just wanted to give you the background. And this is the background to your POE. And you are given a case study. Oh, apologies, clicked the wrong button there. You are given the context about back coming into the South African market. It has conducted some research, and they are very well aware of the growth potential in South Africa. If you go and have a look, actually the car market is one of the industries that has been growing. If you keep up with our GDP, we've got terrible news today, and we are actually not growing at all in any industry. There's a very slight growth in the car industry in South Africa, and they want to capitalize on demand. But this company has identified challenges. It's competitive in South Africa with both local and international brands, and the company has come to the realization that we as South Africans are not considering choosing their products. So you have been approached by the CEO of Bike South Africa and as a marketer with the following question. How do we sell a product to a market that does not appear to want it? Now, therein lies a challenge to every marketer on earth, not just us as students. So your task for this POE is to, once you have engaged with the theory, and that's why we do a little bit of theory in our online lectures, and I send you videos in between, because that just kind of gives you the basics of the theory. You as a marketer have learned that the only way to influence customers to buy is to create a superior customer value and communicate this with your customers. So remember to meet their needs better than competitors. So your task is to conduct some research, to create value, and then to adapt the marketing strategy. The 4 Ps, the product, the price, the place, and the promotion. And then an impactful advertisement and campaign. So it seems like really big as we look at it now, but we break it down. It's how do you eat the elephant in bite-sized chunks. So as you can see in your POE, it says whilst Bike is an actual company, the case study is content is fictitious. So we have just been given this problem. How do we sell a product to a market that does not appear to want it? And those of you who have completed your first ICE task, you are going to be so grateful because you need to develop another advert coming up. So you've already developed the skills. Well done. But that is giving you the background to your POE. I just wanted to touch very, very briefly on part one. And part one is out of 100 marks. And it's broken into 2 tasks. And also, we're going to help you with this. And it really is about understanding the theory to be able to create customer value. So in your POE, it says a marketer cannot create customer value without information on how customers think and what they feel about a brand or a product. Individual and group factors impact on how customers think. And we're going to do all this theory the next time we meet. We're going to understand what those individual and those group factors are. And your task A of part one is to design a survey with some of the people, with people that you know, not strangers, and we're going to ask them questions, and we're then going to analyze that information and write. Your task B is to write a report. So I don't even want to go into the detail about that yet because we haven't covered a lot of the material that we need. But I wanted to show you this to get you thinking and to start looking at the company, getting an understanding. You were sent some videos to watch. When I sent you your ICE task A, there were some videos there about brand awareness and customer value, etc. And the videos that I sent you at the beginning of last week. And just to start developing your foundation for your case study. But we're not going to go into detail now about the tasks. I just wanted to show you kind of the layout of what your portfolio of evidence looks like. So that's your first part. Your second part is then, I'm not going to detail, part two is also out of 100 marks. And then your final part is also out of 100 marks. So your POE is 300 marks. Part 1 is 100 marks. Part 2 is 100 marks. Part 3 is 100 marks. And they all link and work together. So your feedback on part 1 you will use for part 2. And then at the end of this POE, you will see that there's a marking rubric. Jamie, all the dates are there on your calendar, everything for you. Let me see if I've got it in front of me. Your part 1 is due on the 15th of April, part 2 on the 13th of May, and the final POE on the 4th of June. But it's all on Learn under more resources and weekly planners for you. But I just wanted to show you kind of the structure of it and how it's laid out. And it's all about back in South Africa, or bike. Depends who you talk to. I don't actually know how to say it. Are there any questions about your POE? Okay. Well, something to digest, something to look at for next time. So as per our structures, as I said in our introductory session, I will be sending you some videos next week. Please read and digest chapters 1 and 2. We covered, we're done. Please start looking at your portfolio of evidence, and I will start sending you some videos for the first part of your POE for next week. Remember, we meet every second week. I am available on email, and I will be in contact with you very, very regularly. So if there are no other questions, thank you so much for your time. As you know, all sessions are recorded, and this will be both emailed to you and put in a folder under more resources for you to look at any time that you want. So thank you very much for your time, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and I will be in touch online, and I will see you in 2 weeks' time. Thank you so much. No, I'm afraid there isn't. It's just via email. Thank you very much, everybody.